Hi everyone, my name is Glenda Young and I am giving an online talk about my historical sagas which are set in Ryhope. I want to say a big thank you to Sunderland Libraries Literature Festival for inviting me to come along and give this online talk, and I hope you really enjoy what I'm about to say. I'm going to try and give this talk and record it all in one take. So I know that sounds a bit ambitious, so forgive me if I stumble over my words, get things wrong, or generally make a bit of a mess. I'm going to try and do it as professionally as I can, but in one take. So let's go, bear with me, let's go. I've always loved writing, ever since I was a child, and I grew up in Ryhope, which is where my sagas are set. And the primary reason for this talk is because I've got a brand new one out. It's The Miner's Lass, and she's here. This is the hardback of the book, which came out much earlier this year. The paperback comes out on October the 28th, and you'll notice that the paperback has a different cover. It's got the same girl on the front, but she doesn't have a hat and she's wearing a slightly different dress. And the reason the publishers have changed it is just because the paperback is going into supermarkets, and it's going to reach a different kind of audience and readership, I guess. I love both covers. I'd be hard pressed to choose a favourite, but it'd be interesting to know which one's your favourite if you do get the paperback. So I'll tell you all about The Miner's Lass, but I'll talk generally about the sagas that are set in Ryhope before we officially launch the new book and the new girl into the world. I've loved writing ever since I was a child. I used to write stories and poems, and I've always just been fascinated with the way that words, when you write them down on a page and read them out, how they sound and how they make you feel. And I've always loved writing stories. But I grew up on a council estate in Ryhope and didn't have a clue about how to become a writer. I didn't know any writers, I just had no idea about how to become a writer. So it wasn't something that I could aspire to, because it was just something so alien to me. I left school, I started work, I did a degree as a mature student in journalism at Sunderland University. I was a very mature student, I was in my 30s. And it was while I was doing the degree that I got asked by ITV to get involved in some online writing about Coronation Street, which was wonderful. I'm a huge Coronation Street fan, and I was asked by ITV to update some of their official books, which was fantastic. And it really kind of started from there. But all the time that I was writing the Coronation Street books, I was aware that these fantastic women I was writing about, Ina Sharples, Hilda Ogden, Deirdre Barlow, all of those fantastic women, I hadn't created them. These ladies were someone else's creation. And it was always in the back of my mind that I wanted to create my own stories and my own leading women, my own fantastic young women, and I've done it. I've finally done it. So I was writing the Corrie books and wanting to create my own stories and my own heroines. So I started writing short stories for women's magazines to see if I could actually flex that fiction muscle in my head and see if I could tell a story. And the women's magazines started taking my stories, which were just fantastic. That really changed things for me. And one of the women's magazines, The People's Friend, asked me to start writing their first ever weekly soap opera for the magazine, which was just amazing. It's called Riverside. I've been writing it now for 4 years. Every week, every Wednesday afternoon, I sit down and write Riverside. It's the writing highlight of my week. So the People's Friend magazine asked me to start writing their first ever weekly soap opera. It's called Riverside, and I've been writing it now for over 4 years, and it's the writing highlight of my week. It's so funny, and I've got this whole community of people living in my head that I go and visit once a week on a Wednesday afternoon when I sit down to write Riverside. And it was on the strength of Riverside that I had the confidence then. I knew I could tell a story, and I was getting published in magazines, that I was taken on by an agent in London who encouraged me, that old adage, write about what you know. She encouraged me to write historical sagas set somewhere that meant a great deal to me. And so I set them in Ryhope, which is where I grew up, and I knew Ryhope had a wealth of history, coal mining and farming, where I could set my fiction. So I do a lot of research. I research with the Ryhope Heritage Society, who are hugely helpful, Sunderland Antiquarian Society, the library in town, the local studies. All of those organisations in Sunderland have been extremely helpful and just falling over themselves to help with research, which is fantastic, because you grow up somewhere like Ryhope and you think you know the place, but it's only when you start researching it that you realise how little you do know, and there's a lot to learn, and I have learned an enormous amount. So I started writing, my debut novel was Belle of the Backstreets, which is this one, and it's about a girl who takes on her dad's rag and bone round. And before I'd even finished writing the first draft, my agent had 3 publishers fighting over it. I'd only written 5 chapters. So I knew then I was onto something. It was just crazy, because if you think that all I'd ever wanted, ever since I was a little girl, was to write and to be a writer, and you know, okay, I'm a lady of a certain age now, a lot older than I was, but I've done it. I've finally been published, and not only am I published, but Headline gave me a 3-book deal. And then I've got another 3-book deal, and then there's another 2 books coming in the saga series so far, as well as some cosy crime books set in Scarborough, so a complete departure from the sagas. And I am actually giving a talk about my first debut cosy crime as part of the festival, so do keep your eye on the website, because it's such a fun book. I don't want to go into too much detail today, because today is the talk about the sagas, but the cosy crime book is Murder at the Seaview Hotel. It's about 12 Elvis impersonators called Twelvis who book into the Seaview Hotel in Scarborough, and one of them gets murdered. But do come back for that talk, because it's a lot of fun. And there really should have been lots of outtakes in the video I recorded for this, because I'm not very professional with these talks. It's all new to me, put it that way, so come back for this talk. So my Ryhope sagas, they're standalone books. You can read them in any order. They're all set in Ryhope at the end of the First World War, so at the period where soldiers are coming back to Ryhope, and some of the soldiers are wounded, physically wounded, and some of them are suffering from what they didn't call shell shock back then, but that's what it turned out to be. So there's a lot of problems going on in Ryhope at that time. The farming community was, Ryhope was made its living on the farms and the coal mine, and there were very 2 different sides to Ryhope, because you had the coal mine at one end and you had the farming and the sort of pastoral village at the other end. So there's a bit of conflict going on between the 2 sides of Ryhope, which is perfect for writing fiction and for plunging these young women in and giving them really tough storylines. So my debut was Belle of the Backstreets, the girl who takes on the rag and bone round, and then we had the second one was The Twopenny Child, and this is about a young girl from Hartlepool who arrives in Ryhope looking for her child, which has been stolen. This is probably one of my favourites, and I think with readers it's their favourite too. I get a lot of feedback about The Twopenny Child. It's got a wonderful chapter in it about the Irish women's Christmas. It's a tradition in Ireland that still goes on to this day, where women celebrate their own Christmas on January the 6th. So I heard about the women's Christmas from a friend in Dublin, and I was so taken by it that I knew I had to write about it and put it into the book. So there's a whole chapter dedicated to the women's Christmas, and I don't want to give too much away, but the women's Christmas will be making a reappearance in my sagas in the future. The third book was Pearl of Pit Lane, and this is about women who earn their living by selling their bodies in the back lanes. It's quite dark. It's quite dark, but no matter what I throw at my young heroines of the books, they always overcome the odds. Always. The fourth book is The Girl with the Scarlet Ribbon. This book, I'm very proud of it. It's actually set between Ryhope and Scarborough. And there's a lot of drama and action in it, and not that there's a lot of drama in all of my books. They're very gritty. They are And my love of soap opera comes through as well. But I think in The Girl with the Scarlet Ribbon, because of the shipwreck that's in it, and the shipwreck leads to a lot of different characters. We find out the truth about what happens to some of them. I'm trying not to give too many spoilers away in case you haven't read these books yet. The Paper Mill Girl, I'm enormously proud of. It's set at Hendon Paper Mill at the end of the First World War, and I did so much research into Hendon Paper Mill. Absolutely loved it. In fact, I think the research is my favourite part of any of these books. I love getting stuck into libraries and museums and the archives. I love visiting Sunderland Antiquarian Society, the local study centre in town, the Sunderland libraries. I love it. I love immersing myself in all of that. And I didn't know that I would enjoy it so much, because when I was at school I didn't enjoy history or anything like that. But it's learning about your own heritage and history which has just been fantastic. So The Paper Mill Girl is about a young girl who works at Hendon Paper Mill, and she is just about to be promoted to supervisor in what was called the rag room, where the girls would be working with old clothes that have been brought in to be as a raw material for making paper, and their jobs would be just to sit all day and pull buttons off shirts or rip seams open, and so that the air would be thick with dust. And so the girl, the heroine of the book, Ruth, is just about to be promoted to supervisor when something happens at the paper mill that changes everything. And again, I'm trying not to give too much away. The Miner's Lass, which is out in paperback in November, another one that I'm extremely proud of. It stars a heroine called Ruby, and I think she's my most innocent heroine of them all so far. And poor Ruby, I do chuck everything and the kitchen sink up at the heroines of my books, and with Ruby it's no exception. She really gets it in the neck. She grows a lot during the book, learns a lot about life. Will she get a happy ending? You'll have to read it and find out, but I hope you really enjoy it. It was inspired. People always ask me, where do you get the ideas for your stories? And it's a very difficult question to answer, but with The Miner's Lass, it was inspired by 2, maybe 3 words. I was looking at an old map of Ryhope at Sunderland Antiquarian Society, and for those who remember old Ryhope, or actually not so long ago, in the last maybe 10 years or so, there was a pub on the road between Ryhope and Grangetown called the Toll Bar. Behind the Toll Bar on this really old map was an area called the Sand Pit, which I thought was really strange, and I was told that it was commonly referred to as the Blood Pit. So the Sand Pit became the Blood Pit. Well, the Blood Pit, those 3 words intrigued me, and I had to find out more. It turns out that it was called the Blood Pit because blood was spilled there, and because bare knuckle fighting went on. So I'm intrigued even more, and I wanted to dig deeper and research more. And then I was thinking, if there was a bare knuckle fight going on at the back of this pub, what could the 2 men be fighting over? And I thought, I'm going to make them fight over a woman. What's that woman done to make these 2 men fight? Who will win? Who will lose? What are the stakes? So in comes Ruby, our heroine, and that's who eventually these 2 men will be fighting over. And from that I created The Miner's Lass. So there's a bare knuckle fight. There's all sorts going on. We visit the mental health asylum in Ryhope as well, what became Cherry Knoll, but was back then Sunderland Borough Asylum. There's a lot of themes of mental health going on in The Miner's Lass as well, with Ruby's mother. She's not a well woman. And there is just some fantastic characters in all of my books. The female characters, not just the lead characters, all of them, they are larger than life. They're not based on anyone I know, but they're kind of, I think each one would be a mix of women that I grew up with, aunties, grandmas, you know, friends of my mum's who would come to the house and I'd sit and listen to their conversations. So it's all of those things that have gone into me which are now coming out into the books. But I do get asked if they're based on anyone, and they're absolutely not. I do, when I do my research, a lot of what people tell me obviously goes into the character. It goes through a filter, a fictional filter, and then into the characters. But I would never ever take anyone's story and put it straight on the page. That would be wrong. But when I'm walking around town or on the bus and I'm listening to dialogue, I'm always, you know, got my writing head on, so it's going in there, and it might lodge, or if I need to make a note, if someone says something, I'll do so, and it all gets used. But the Miner's Lass is now available in all good bookshops, as they say, or you can, if you'd like to a signed copy, by all means get in touch through my website, glendayoungbooks.com. And if you just want to say hello, or get in touch with me if you want any advice on writing or getting published. I'm not an expert, but I'll certainly give you as much advice as I can. And if you are intending to write yourself, then I wish you the very best of luck. It's a heck of a roller coaster ride when you see your first book published and it's on the shelves in Waterstones, in the bridges, in town, and not only is it on the shelves, but it's at the top of their bestseller list. That's a feeling that you just will take forever. It's amazing, and I can't thank the people of Sunderland enough. My books have done very well in the best-selling charts, especially The Paper Mill Girl that got into the top 50 national UK best-selling charts, so I'm thrilled about that. During the lockdown over the last year, I've been very fortunate that I've been able to donate lots of paperbacks to Riot Community Centre. It's for them to distribute throughout the village for people isolating, and that means the world to me. It really does, to be able to do that to Riot, and for people, the feedback I'm getting from readers on the books is heartwarming. It's incredible, actually. So it makes this middle-aged woman very happy indeed. So thank you so much. So these are my 6 sagas that are out so far. There's another 2 to come so far. I've written one of them. I've still got to write another, so I'll be doing research and starting to write maybe November, December time, and then I'll be writing all the way through Christmas and then into the new year, before returning to another cosy crime in Scarborough. So I'm alternating between sagas and cosy crimes now. So do join me, I think it's next week, for the talk about my cosy crime book, and I hope I'll see you then. Come and say hello on my website, follow me on Facebook, and when this video fades out, as professionally as I can, excuse me, I will put the links up so you can have a look at, you know, come and say hello on social media if you'd like to. It would be really nice. I love getting the feedback from readers, as long as it's nice. Thank you very much indeed to Sunderland Libraries Literature Festival for inviting me, and I hope you really enjoyed my talk and I haven't waffled on too much. And no doubt I'll be going back to edit this a little bit to take out the rough edges. All right, that's me. Thank you very much indeed.